to keep it competitive over the past 9 years in Modsports, only John and mechanic Gordon Schofield can tell. Another Elan being raced for its second season is the car of Londoner Paul Berman. Having previously driven Elans, this new car first appeared in 1977 and was developed into a potential race winner by Paul before the end of the year. The main opposition to the three Elans in their class will come from the Caterham 7 of David Bettinson, who first appeared with the car in Modsports in 1975, and following controversy over the eligibility of the Lotus 7-based racing car, Dave has been a regular competitor over the past 4 years. The smallest class for cars with engine capacity of up to 1150cc is dominated by the Adrian Evans built Davrians. In the right hands, these machines are quite capable of winning Modsports races outright. With his many years of experience driving these cars, Bob Jarvis, with a special lightweight version fitted with a Carter-tuned engine, can be expected to battle with the Elans for outright victory. Pat Longhurst is another driver with many years of experience racing Davrians, having been teammate of Bob Jarvis in a Wurtzbach 2-car team in Modsports 5 seasons ago. Backing up these two experienced campaigners with similar cars will be John Digby, Jack Peat and Ron Kirkman. Making the occasional appearance on northern circuits to break up the Davrian monopoly of the class is Barry Fernley, who, with limited finance, has modified his road-going Honda into a Modsports car, but with an engine of only 800cc capacity, there is no way in which he can challenge the Davrians. The MG Midget has for long been the first step into motor racing for lots of people who are determined to go racing but are short of money. And this model forms the backbone of the 1151 to 1500cc class. One of the leading drivers in the class is Gary Wilson from Southport, who, with the help of Peter Green, has built up a new midget over the winter to contest this year's Modsports Championships. A similar car will be driven by Keith Ashbury from Newbury, who has been racing midgets with considerable success for many years, as have Peter Riching and Mike Donovan, who have combined their talents to build another version and share the driving of the car. The main challenge to the midgets should come from the mini-base cars. The transverse engine Mini Gem has been raced by Ian Hall since 1973. The Bristol engineer is one of the most experienced drivers in Modsports, having started racing in 1966 with the Austin Early Sprite, and in that time has completed in nearly 300 races. Stephen Roberts is having only his second full season of racing with a Mini Marcos, with its fiberglass body built by Harold Dermott of Oldham as a kit car. The ex-John Cooper Porsche has been purchased by Tony Wingrove to contest the largest class, which is for cars of over 2000cc capacity, and his main opposition will come from Richard Gamble, who has sold his E-Type Jaguar and bought the 3-litre Ford V6 powered Marcos, with which Jonathan Palmer went so well last season, and had previously been raced by Andy Fraser, who is now sharing the driving of Ed Stevens' TVR, which has been fitted with a 4.7-litre V8 Ford engine since Ed purchased the car from Brian Huff in 1973. But at the first meeting of the year at Thruxton, there is a new car to Modsports, as Janspeed Engineering have entered their 3-litre 280Z Datsun for the very experienced saloon car driver Alec Poole to contest the first round of the BARC organised STP sponsored 1978 Modified Sports Car Championship. And Poole is soon showing the car's potential by recording the fastest practice lap on a wet track in 1 minute 35.6 seconds, nearly 5 seconds quicker than John Fletcher's Elan, who in turn is nearly a second quicker than Wingrove and Gamble, while Max Payne can only record 13th fastest time, some 13 seconds slower than Poole, as he starts to get to terms with the Elan on his first drive since the end of last season. Between practice and the race, John Fletcher checks over the Elan as he sets out to try and repeat his BARC Modsports Championship win of last year, and Max Payne discusses how to improve on his low grid position with Derek Matthews as the cars line up in the assembly area before the start. Alec Poole brings the Datsun onto pole position on the starting grid, alongside the Elan of John Fletcher, and Tony Wingrove going extremely well in his first race with the powerful Porsche. Derek Matthews giving a final clean to the inside of the Elan screen that has tended to mist up in the wet conditions of practice. Out of the chicane at the end of the first lap, John Fletcher surprisingly leads from Poole's Datsun, ahead of Wingrove, Jarvis and Gamble, while Max Payne is involved in a battle with Digby's Davrian and Berman's Elan further back down the field. By half distance of the 19-mile race, Poole has moved the more powerful Datsun ahead of the Elan, while the Porsche of Tony Wingrove holds off Bob Jarvis in the Davrian, Mike Donovan and Keith Ashby in the Midgets, and Gamble in the Marcos, while further back, Paul Berman moves ahead of Digby and Payne. 2 laps from the end, John Fletcher, hardly able to see in the murk, retakes Poole to hold on to the lead to the checkered flag. Tony Wingrove bringing the Porsche home in 3rd place, ahead of Mike Donovan's Midget, who moved up to 4th when Bob Jarvis and Keith Ashby touched and spun on the last lap, while Max Payne loses out in his battle with Berman and Digby to finish 11th overall and 4th in his class. John Fletcher arriving at the presentation rostrum to receive his trophy for a most well-deserved victory from the sponsor's representative, and also to be presented with a trophy by the Thruxton Supporters Association for being the most successful driver at Thruxton in 1977. The victory getting John off to the best of starts for his 1978 season. McVitie's Jaffa Cakes are sponsoring the British Racing and Sports Car Club's Modsports series this year, and the second round takes place at Castle Coombe on Easter Monday. Paul Berman's win in the first round at Snetterton on Good Friday being the main point of discussion between Bob Jarvis, who finished 2nd, Pat Longhurst, who finished 7th, and John Fletcher, who finished 3rd, just ahead of Max Payne. Tony Wingrove could only manage 7th place at Snetterton and discusses with Ian Hall, who is out of racing following a road accident, his hopes for improvement today, as the Porsche holds the outright Modsports lap record in the hands of John Cooper. Max Payne and Paul Berman have both had problems in practice and will start from the back of the grid, as John Fletcher lines up in pole position alongside Dave Bettinson in the Caterham 7 and Richard Gamble's Marcos. Further back on the grid, John Digby has problems with his Davrian, and with less than 1 minute to go before the start, is removed from the grid by the officials. As the field get away, David Humphries receives help from the officials, who clear the grid just in time for John Fletcher to complete his first lap ahead of Bettinson and Gamble, with Berman and Payne already up into 4th and 5th places, the two Elans soon moving up behind Fletcher and Bettinson. As the leading cars complete lap 5, Max, now full of confidence and with the car on full song, makes his move to take the lead. Max continues to pull away from Fletcher and Bettinson as Paul Berman retires out on the circuit. Tony Wingrove in 4th place leads the Unlimited class ahead of Mickey Smith's Jaguar, and Stephen Roberts and Pat Longhurst both lead their classes. At the end of 10 laps, Max takes the checkered flag 11 seconds ahead of the similar car of John Fletcher and the Caterham 7 of Dave Bettinson. Max Payne arrives back to the finishing line to be presented with a garland by the McVitie's representative for his victory in one of the finest drives of his career, in coming through from the back of the grid to record his first outright Modsports championship win with his present car, to the delight of Bob Eccles and Derek Matthews, who had put in a tremendous amount of work over the past few weeks to get the car to a point where it is now showing its potential. Max continues his good run by finishing second at Croft the following week, but unfortunately missing the next round at Cadwell Park when he suffered with a bout of flu, so that it is April the 16th when the Elan appears again for another McVitie's Championship round at Silverstone, where Max records second fastest practice time behind Paul Berman, who has problems with the Elan's gearbox, and typical of the friendliness between Modsports drivers and mechanics, Derek Matthews offers help to get the rival Elan into the race, as Paul and his helpers have the engine and gearbox out of the car. John Fletcher has been slower in practice than usual, but amuses himself before the race by trying out the motorcycle he has purchased for one of his children, while Paul Berman calmly watches as his mechanics endeavour to refit the Elan's engine in time for the race. When the cars arrive in the assembly area before the race, John Digby reports to John Fletcher that Paul Berman has failed in his attempt to rectify his car and will be unable to take the start, leaving Max Payne to line up on the grid as the